Hello and welcome to Faithfully Stampin' with Jennifer Helm. I am Jennifer Helm, the Faithful Stamper and independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. I have for you today a card that has been on my to-do list for quite a while. This technique has been all the rage with demonstrators and fellow crafters this summer, and I really liked it and wanted to try it. So this is the Faux Shutter or fractured card. Some people call it other things as well, but those are the two most common names. And I've been wanting to try it for a while. I thought I had figured out in my head how to make it, and I found out I was completely wrong. Now, neither way is complicated, and it could be done either way, but I'm going to show you the official way to do it, and it's really simple. It's a great way to use scraps of designer series paper, and you can use it for any occasion. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with a card base of Lemon Lolly. This is one of our new colors that was added when our annual catalog came out. Speaking of catalogs, our brand new holiday mini catalog debuts tomorrow, which is September the 6th. If you do not have a demonstrator you are currently working with and you are interested in having a copy of this catalog to have in your hands, please feel free to reach out either in the comments or find me on Facebook as the Faithful Stamper, and I would be happy to get you one. But Lemon Lolly was one of our new colors. It's a very happy yellow, not too bright, not too soft. And so this is a standard card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored down the middle. And so when you fold it, it measures 4.25. And so I'm just going to get this ready. I don't need to do anything else with it right now, but I'd like to have it ready to go for when I do need it. So I'm saying so a lot, and I get aggravated when I catch myself doing that. Pardon me. A piece of designer series paper is the front panel on this card, and this is kind of going to be our work surface for this card design. So 4 inches wide by 5.25 inches tall, so make sure you watch your direction if you have a directional print like this one. One thing I like about this is if you're using 12 by 12, you can get 6 of these panels from one piece of designer series paper, so it's very easy to mass produce these cards if that's something you're interested in doing. Next, we need a cardstock square. This is 2.25 inches square. Now, you can use, I wouldn't go a whole lot bigger because you can see it takes up a good bit of room on the card, and then we're going to add these cardstock strips in a moment. You can go smaller, and I'm going to show you some other ideas later in the video about how to change up the front of the card. But you can use a die cut if you have one, or if you don't have a die cutter, a square of cardstock will work just fine. So this is 2.25. I am going to use it on the diagonal though. So, there, I said it again. The stamp set I am using today is the Something Fancy stamp set. Every now and then I do miss a birthday, and I hate it when I do that. But this has my favorite belated birthday greeting, and it says, "I didn't forget your birthday, I'm just stretching out the celebration." So that is what I'm going to put on the front of this, the card and this panel of paper. I have shaded spruce ink, which I pulled out from the green in some of these leaves. My stamp set today is red rubber cling, so it has the foam built in. Hopefully you can see it's got that nice little cushion there. So I don't need anything under my paper. I can just stamp right on my surface. If you're new to stamping, remember, no CPR on your stamps. You want to stamp gently and firmly, not smush it to death. That was something I still catch myself doing once in a while, but it was the longest for me to learn. So I'm going to take my stamp, tap it in the ink, tap, tap, tap. I can take a look and say, yep, I think I got enough, or I can tap it more if I need to. And then, let's see, I'm going to 1, 2, 3, lift straight up, and hopefully I get a good impression like that. If not, I can flip it over or cut a new piece. And then that is the front sentiment, and we'll get to the inside here in a moment. So this is the focal point for the front of our Faux Shutter card. And what we're going to do is glue this to the front. Now, the majority of this card I'm going to use liquid glue for, but if I don't need to use liquid glue, I tend not to. I'm very messy with liquid glue, which is why I don't use it unless absolutely necessary. I am a tape runner girl. So I'm using my Stampin' Seal Plus. I'm out of my Stampin' Seal, so I don't really need the extra heavy duty Stampin' Seal Plus, but that's what I have, and it is my favorite when I can actually keep it on the cardstock. So I'm going to take this, and most of the time with this card, I center it. You can finagle it if you like it a little bit better, off to one side or another. You can absolutely do that if it works with your design. You may want to lay it out before you glue anything down. Next, we are going to create the faux shutter look. And to do that, we are going to take 4 strips of cardstock. These are 1/4 inch wide, so pretty narrow, and that's why we're using the liquid glue, because my tape runner is wider than these panels of cardstock. And they're 5.5 inches long. 5.5 inches is a good length for this. You'll see why. If you have them too short, they might not extend the whole way that you need them to. So 5.5 is good. You will have some excess to trim off, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Now, if you don't have one, I highly recommend this next tool. This is our silicone craft mat. They're very inexpensive. They're silicone. They're very easy to wipe clean. You could run them through the dishwasher, really. I actually need to wash mine when I'm done here tonight because I've got lots of glue stuck to it from working on it today. But this is very handy because it protects my work surface from any glue that might get away from me. Now, there are 2 ways to do this. You can either put glue directly on your strip of cardstock, or if you've got a steady hand, you can run lines of glue across the front of the card. Really, no way is better than another. It's just whatever you're comfortable with. So the main thing to remember here, when we glue our first strip, we're going to take the edge of the strip and we're going to line it up even with the edge of my square. I'm going to move a little closer so you can see, just like this. Okay, this will help set that faux shutter look. I struggled a little the first time I tried to make this card because I didn't have my strips in the right place. Lining it up like this will make your life a walk in the park. It really doesn't matter which side of the square you start with or the diamond you start with, but you do have to line it up like this. And so what I found for me, I kind of made a little post-it note cheat sheet, is I always start with this strip here on the top and I line it up just like this. So I'm going to take my liquid glue. Our rule of thumb with the liquid glue is dot, dot, not a lot. I do like to try to keep my streams of glue kind of thin. And then I'm going to take this and line it up just like I showed you a minute ago. And there I've got my glue, so that's why the silicone mat saves me, is that extra glue. Now it's up to you. You can leave it like this and work around it, or you can swivel it. And I'll show you what I mean with the glue stream. If you've got a pretty steady hand, you can just run your glue along the edge, not too close. And then you're just gonna butt this next cardstock strip up against the one you already laid in place. Oop. Liquid glue is a little bit forgiving. You have a moment to get it before it really sets. And then we're just gonna do these other 2 as well. Continuing on along the circle. So my square is a little crooked here, but otherwise the striped paper actually helps me as far as keeping a straight line of glue. I'm gonna go ahead even and put this one in like that. So you're not here all night watching me glue. And then again, just keep buttoning it up against the square and that other cardstock strip that you put down. Give it a little press. It's also handy to have a little paper towel, a little damp paper towel, in case you get some glue on your finger or your card front. Whoop. Trying to get away from me there. And then I'm just gonna dab that off before it gets too messy. Now, our liquid glue sets pretty quickly. But what I'm gonna do to let this set, I'm just gonna pick up this whole thing and move it off to the side while I work on the inside of my card. By the time I'm done that, I should be ready to take the next step with that front panel. So for the inside of my card, I have a piece of basic white. This is 5 1/4 by 4. I'm gonna go back to my shaded spruce ink and my interior sentiment, which is just happy birthday, to go with that belated message on the front. Normally I would go a little bit higher with my sentiment, but I want to keep it down towards the middle because I'm going to dress up the inside to match the outside. I don't happen to have any lemon stamps. I don't have the citrus set yet that we've had for a little bit. Just hasn't been on my priority list, but it's got these cute little lemons on the paper. So what I did, I cut those 6 panels of DSP out, and that left me with a long skinny strip. I forget, maybe 1.5 inches or so by 12. So I just cut it into 4-inch chunks and then cut three panels like this from that extra piece. So this is 1/2 inch by 4. And I'm just going to take these, grab my Stampin' Seal because the 1/2 inch width is actually perfect for these, and run some adhesive along. Get it off my craft table. And then these strips are just going to accent the top and the bottom of my sentiment panel for the inside. So I'm going to put them like that. I don't know why, but I have a little overlap here. So I'm just going to take my scissors and trim off my excess. So there's the inside, ready to go. I'm going to take my Stampin' Seal. This panel gets put on the inside of my card. So I like to check and make sure I've got whichever side I want for the front facing up. Open it up and place this inside. Now I should be about ready for that front panel that we had the glue on. So I can lift the whole thing up. You can always leave it sit a little bit longer. I'm just gonna flip it over and trim off these extra pieces, which are getting away from me. Just like this. These can be thrown away. If you're really crafty, you can keep them for another project. Usually I do, but I'm telling myself today I do not need these little piles of scraps. It's okay to bless and release sometimes, right? All right, here's the panel. I'm gonna flip that over. And as I said, I could use liquid glue for the whole thing, but I'm gonna go with my tape runner for attaching this to the front of the card. Oop, I just realized I'm a little off. I got excited, I guess, and can you see that? I actually have a little mistake there where I missed butting up the cardstock against each other. But guess what? I can fix that because this is perfectly cute. I could just leave it the way it is. I decided not to add any bling, but I thought I'd add a bow. So we're gonna take advantage of this bow and hide my little mistake. So this was part of a ribbon combo pack. And it was perfect. The colors are absolutely perfect for this card. So I'm going to tie a bow right on the spool of ribbon. Little bows like this I can do pretty well. I am not the world's best bow tire. I'm going to snip the ends like this. Get rid of the extra. Oop. Doing a horrible job here. Here we go. Now, all I need is a glue dot. Now I like to bring my bow right to my glue dot, press it on there, and then when I lift it up, the glue dot comes with the bow, and watch this. I'm gonna cover my little mistake and nobody's gonna know it's there but me. Perfect. Now I could add a little bling if I wanted to, but I think I'm gonna leave it like this. And so that is your Faux Shutter card, where you can see the old kind of, does anybody remember the old shutter cameras where they would kind of close in and then open back up? That's what this look is supposed to be. I really thought that the way to do this card was to leave spaces in between this panel and your pieces of DSP, and you could do that, but it would actually be a little more work, so this is the simpler way to do it. You can change up the look of your card simply by changing the color of the cardstock. And I really like the lemon lolly. I feel that this really shows the Faux Shutter look. Although the petal pink is cute too. And one thing I wanted to point out, the first card that I made using this technique, I actually goofed. I used 1/2-inch strips instead of 1/4. And it really does work, but I like the thinner strips better. So if you like the thicker strips, by all means, go with that. They're 1/2 inch by 5.5 before you glue them. And then you might not need to fuss with the liquid glue because you can actually use your tape runner on that. But otherwise, if you like the skinny ones, do that 1/4 inch by the 5.5. So here I add a little bling, but you can see very quickly to put together and fun to change up your look just by changing the color. Now, you can also change your look in other ways. For example, this next card, I switched from the belated birthday sentiment to nothing fancy, just love, and I'm gonna pair it with a happy anniversary stamp on the inside because I need some anniversary cards for my stash. I need to send out a few in the mail this week. But what I also did here was I changed up the focal point. I used a smaller stitched square. This is one of the stitched dies from our Stitched Shapes die set in our annual catalog, one of my favorites. And then I layered it with a slightly larger petal pink square before I added those cardstock strips. And I really like the look of this. To me, it's just clean, but it's eye-catching without being too ornate because of the stitch details. And then I simply added some pearls there to just give a little accent. Nothing super fancy, but I think very, very plain, or not very plain, but plain but not too plain. You know what I mean? All right. You can also change up your look by adding embossed cardstock. Here I embossed a panel of 5 1/4 by 4. Then I put my white square in the middle, you know, on the axis so it looks like a diamond. I put down my cardstock strips, and then I simply took 2 scraps of cardstock or designer series paper, and I just butted them right into the corners here where these 2 strips came together. And then when the glue was dry, I trimmed these DSP pieces along with the cardstock that was extended beyond the panel. Hopefully that made sense. But isn't this pretty? I love it. And it's a great way to use small scraps of designer series paper. Also, if you don't happen to have any designer series paper and you don't have an embossing folder to do embossed paper, it's okay. You've got stamps, right? Make your own 5 1/4 by 4 panel, and so it'll have a stamp design, and then you're simply going to add that focal point in the middle and your cardstock strips, and you have the same idea, whether you use DSP or stamped paper or embossed paper. It's just the look, the faux shutter look that pulls it all together. All right, now, you don't have to stick with a square. You could actually put the square not on the axis to make it a diamond. You could put it actually as a square and do the same thing. You would just have a more perpendicular look to your card if you wanted. You can also use different shapes. Now we have some die cuts that we have right now. I didn't have a chance to pull them out, so I cheated and I used a retired tag punch. This is our retired tailored tag that is a favorite of mine. I was so sad when they retired it, but you get the idea. You don't have to have a shape with 4 sides. You might not want one with 50, but if you have a different shape like this one, a hexagon, a pentagon, something like that, you can actually do this technique. It's the same way. But a word of caution, something that I learned as I was going here. When you get into more angles, you run into the challenge of getting the pieces to butt up against each other like on this style of card. So just something to keep in mind. I realized what I should have done is I should have started with my 2 straight pieces and then done the angled pieces, and I should have tucked the ends under the straight panels. Then it would have hidden them, and I know they're there because I'm looking for them, so the next time I make one of these, I will make some adjustments. But I like the overall look of the card. It's just, you might want to lay it out and finagle your edges a little bit before you glue anything down. But this is one of our Halloween designer series papers and a different stamp set and a die cut set as well. That's where my little ghosty goblin here came from. But great for any occasion. Love it. And again, I like branching out from the square or the diamond. Now, I combined squares and diamonds on these next cards, and I went with a masculine theme. So this is the same that you saw me put together at the beginning, just a designer series paper. But instead of pulling out a white or vanilla, which is my base here, center point, I went tone on tone, and I kept my center point mossy meadow just like my cardstock strips. And then I took a layered square of pecan pie and very vanilla, and I put them on the opposite axis so they are the square. Popped them up on dimensionals, added a fussy cut fish from the Let's Go Fishing suite. I may add some of our rustic metallic embellishments because they would go very well with the card, but I really like this for men too. It's different without being too fancy or ornate. You know, guys don't always go for that blingy, ornate business. So this is very nice though. And again, you can change the look just by adding some other designer series paper. So this green is part of the 5 1/4 by 4. And then once I added those strips, again, I took a scrap and just cut the extra off, and it changes the look of the card very simply. So there is our fractured card or our faux shutter card. Very simple to do, great for any occasion, and a great way to use up those scraps of designer series paper. And if you're anything like me, you have tons and tons around. So thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, I would love to have you. You can click the notification bell and be notified each time a video is posted here on the page. And again, you can always find me on Facebook as The Faithful Stamper. I do weekly lives there as well. And I share any specials or incentives that the company has going on, new products, things like that. In case you're interested, you are welcome to join me there. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and happy crafting.